Welcome to Vialet Studio, where Vialet and her guests share stories of their passions, inspirations, and spiritual journeys. Vialet creates a sacred and fun space for individuals to be able to share information about themselves, their work, and their community. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet. Vialet Rayne.
For joining us for Vialet Studio. I am very excited. My guest today is Angela, and she's written books about the secret sidekick. I believe that was the title. I was reading it this morning and I was like, man, I was cloaked for years. I couldn't use this. So welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me too.
I love it. So talk to us a little bit about your journey. What took you down this path? Have you always had gifts? Have you always been connected, or did that happen later on in life? Share with us a little bit your story.
For me, I think I was always connected, but I didn't recognize it. You know, I think most of us are that way, actually. And until we become consciously purposeful in focusing on these abilities and trying to evolve them and connect with them in a conscious way. I think until that point, a lot of people are just kind of naturally using these abilities unknowingly. Mm-hmm. And that's really where I was at. So I have some instances that I can recall from when I was like 4 or 5 of once I started learning about psychic abilities and subtle energy, it was like, oh, that's what was happening in that moment, where as a kid, it was kind of like, you kind of don't know what's real and what's not in terms of the physical world that we live in. And so you're just kind of confused. But so I kind of started more consciously getting into this journey when I was about 12. I've always been really intuitive, very kind of closed off from people. I've always been really shy. I'm extremely introverted. And I also have social anxiety pretty bad. So I was in my own world anyways. And so I felt, as you were saying, cloaked. I felt isolated, I felt alone. And so connecting with spirit became a way that I could feel not alone. I started reading a lot about angels, and that was kind of my into this world where I could, I grew up in a religion that strongly believed in angels. And so that was kind of an accepted way that I could engage with spirit. And from there, it just unfolded into learning about psychic ability, getting into meditation, psychic development, all of that stuff, past lives, mediumship, spirit communication. It just really unfolded from there, and I got into energy work. So yeah, a lot of it all started in my little bedroom with piles of books and many, many, many journeys to the library.
Well, I love that because, some of us, I'm not sure there were books around when I started as many as there are today. Thank goodness for, the internet and the resources that we have. I tell people all the time, I say, when you think about our parents and our grandparents, I don't know that they had access to any of this information, or it was very, very limited. We're so lucky in the time frame that we're in that we have access to all these beautiful things. And I talk about being cloaked because I was an executive as an HR person, and you definitely didn't talk about this in the corporate world. I'm not sure it would be really accepted in that world. But I'm sure that people that look me up today see signs of it because I always had essential oils on my desk. I always had crystals on my desk, and employees would come in and play with them, but they really didn't know what it was. And they always thought my office felt better than anywhere else in the building. And they're like, what's going on in here? Why is your office so calming and comfortable? And then they would talk about moving me, and the employees would be like, oh my God, they're going to move you from this beautiful space. And how do you feel about it? And I'm like, okay. And then they'd move me, and people would come in, they go, how do you do that? What are you doing? Right. Right. So was definitely cloaked. So I'm sure that people that come back and look at it go, oh, now we see what was really happening, right?
It was you, it wasn't the space.
Right. And the energy. And I did set space, like I would clear it when they were gone, and I would set it, you know, I would do all the what some people call, you know, woo or whatever. When everybody was out of the building, I'd come in super early and do my psychic magical things in the space before people were around. Or if I knew I was going to have a crazy meeting, I would go in and clear the conference room. So I'm sure if people realize that today, they'd be like, ooh, what was going on? So that's why I talk about cloaks. So very interesting. I think I agree with you that everybody's connected and gifted, and they may not even be aware. And I think awareness is the first step of anybody stepping into their gifts. Is first, wow, being aware of, ooh, there's signs around me and messages and things coming in all the time. And am I noticing it? And then when you start noticing it, you know, it's like when you buy your car and you've never seen it out on the road, and you drive it off the lot and you drive it home, and it's a brand new car, and you're like, wait a minute, there's one, and there's one, and there's one, and there's one. And so it's all in our awareness and perception. So I love that. And I think when you start becoming aware, that's when you start connecting. So share with us a little bit about your book, because I'm very curious. And in your book that you've written, and when was it released? So give me some background on how you came to write it, and just give us some insights on it.
So the book is The Secret Psychic. So this is the cover.
I love it. You got it tabbed. You're so much like me. That's
lots of tabs. There's highlights, and I'm a live in your book type of person.
I love that.
So the book came about, I started writing stories that appeared in the book 10 years ago. And it was after my sister passed away, and I and family and friends were experiencing all of these really incredible connections with her, these continued bonds, and like things like visions, signs in the external world, just really, really fascinating things were happening. And so I was writing down all of these stories, and I was writing down our experience, thinking that it would become a memoir. And then at some point, I just was like, you know what? I think this was just an exercise in grief. Like, there are things in here that no one else really needs to read. But there were also stories in there that were just like, gosh, I wish I could share this with people, you know? And about 2 years ago, I was in a coffee shop with a friend, and she's the one person that for many, 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 many years, we have gotten together occasionally, and we would sit for hours just talking about our spiritual experiences, classes we were taking, different things we were kind of like evolving into, questions we had, and we would answer for each other. And she was asking a lot of questions at that time that I had asked like 20 years prior, where I had gone through this really big transformation. I was exploring this whole new side of myself and kind of starting to give myself permission to open up to it with psychic abilities and energy work, and kind of moving away from the tradition that I was raised in, which is really scary for a lot of people, myself included at that time. So she was going through this similar experience, asking all these same questions that I'd had, and I felt so grateful that I could answer some of the questions that she had. And I just had this light bulb moment where it was like, wow, if she is going through the same thing that I went through like 20 years ago, there have to be a ton of other people that are going through the same thing, having these same questions. And wouldn't it be great if there was a resource that could answer all of these questions? So I came up with this book idea. I pitched it. And then it wasn't until I was actually writing it and laying out practices and giving explanation of certain things that my mind would be like, oh, wait, that one story that I wrote about like 10 years ago, that would be a really good example of what I'm talking about right now. And I started tuning in and noticing that my sister was actually chiming in from spirit and like feeding me this information and making these connections with things that had happened those 10 years ago and since. So it was really interesting because the heart of the book for me is these stories that I lived that are just really incredible and have been this continued connection that I've had with my sister in spirit, which has been so meaningful. And they're woven through the whole book, and I didn't anticipate that that was going to happen when I started writing it. And so it just became this really extra beautiful thing for me. There's a sense of closure, and I think it gives readers a more real world experience into making use of their abilities, where you can see a lived experience of an everyday person. You know, I'm not out there I'm not giving readings for people. I'm not a professional psychic. I'm more your everyday type of person, even though I'm immersed in this world because I work at a publisher that publishes these types of books, and I'm connected with lots of authors that write these materials. But I consider myself everyday regular person. And so it's kind of like, if I can do it, you can do it. And we all have this connection with spirit. So that's how it came about.
I love that. I love that because so many people, and I feel like more and more people are awakening, and we use that term lightly, but they're becoming aware that there's something different going on around them, that they're searching for something different, that their heart is leading them in a different way, or they're just noticing something that's different. And I see that every day because we have people come to our center every day that are like, I don't know what's going on with me, but this stuff's happening and I don't understand and I need help. And so I think more and more people, and I think COVID really opened people up in some ways. There's some stuff going on the planet energetically, everything, when you start looking at it, that people are like, I don't want to do the same thing I did 3 years ago. I don't want to be the same person I was 3 years ago. So all these new perspectives. So I love the fact that, you know, it's really true. Everybody has gifts. Everybody is connected. Everybody, if you listen very carefully to what people say, you can, for people that are in this all the time, I can tell what gifts they have by how they explain what's happening to them.
Yeah.
Right? I see, I feel, I hear, I know. That gives me an indication on which ones are opening up for them and what they're trying to work through, because we all have them. Now we may ignore them. We may pretend like we don't know, right? And I say pretend because even those of us that have been doing this 20, 25, 30 years, honestly, spirit talks to us and we go, no, that's not true. That's me talking. That's not spirit. Spirit's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. That's not going to happen. Right. And I tell people, I said, when have you had a gut feeling, a real deep gut feeling that, hey, I need to go look for a new job, or I need to move, or I need to go back to school, or I need whatever, and you didn't follow it, and then you were kind of forced to follow it by circumstances or experiences that pushed you in that direction? That doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
It's spirit going, hello, I'm trying to talk to you, right?
Yeah.
and they do give us warnings and insights if we just pay attention. So I love the fact that you've written a book, and I love that you're bringing forth information for people that are brand new, that are like, I'm not sure what this is. They don't know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
But I want to connect and understand more. I love that. And I love the fact that your sister came through and really helped you along the way. And the truth is, maybe she knew that in the future you'd write a book and tell these stories. And
actually, when she was alive, she always said we were going to write a book together one day.
Oh.
And she also always said that my artwork was going to be a part of it. And in fact, the publisher ended up using my artwork on the cover of the book. So, which I didn't prompt them for that. They asked for it, and it ended up being, they chose a painting that is based on a vision that I had immediately after she died. So kind of as an art therapy, I did this painting, and then years later, the publisher was like, okay, we want to use this painting on the cover. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And then I remembered that my sister had always said that we were going to write a book one day and it was going to include my artwork. And I was just like blown away. I could not believe it. I was like, wow, she knew and she made it happen.
Right? I mean, we think our loved ones are gone, but there's so much with us. And there's so much part of our journey, and there's so much our cheerleaders, our healers, our messengers, our guides. They take all those roles for their love for us to guide us along the path. And I love that about, they're not totally gone. They're here with us if we're open to be open to that and listen and be guided by them. It's a beautiful way to do that. So you're a painter as well. So you do paintings. Do you sell your art?
I do. Yeah. I have some of it up on my website. And then I have an Instagram account that it's Angela A. Wicks _draws. And I share my artwork on there too. But I mix, usually it's like abstract acrylics mixed with fabric, mixed with like embroidery, sewing. It's usually really floral. As you can see on the cover, there's like flowers down here. One of the interesting things about the painting, that this is just a section of it, but I actually, after my sister passed away, we ended up having to clean her apartment right away. Otherwise, everything was going to be thrown out. And so we just kind of like did this mad dash of, okay, I'm going to take this and you take that, and this will go to Goodwill, and this is going in the garbage or whatever. And I ended up with this stash of her fabric because she liked to sew purses. And in this painting, this is her fabric that's like right across the top. And I was just like, wow, she's right there, right behind my name, backing me up. So yeah.
Love that.
There's lots of fabric, and it's almost kind of like calming and kind of spiritual, nature connection types of things. And a lot of times I incorporate words, little bits of poetry and things into them too.
Very cool. How awesome is that? Well, thank you for your gift to the world. Thank you for your paintings. Now I'm going to have to go check out paintings, because I'm an art. I love buying art and putting it up in the center in my home. So I have art everywhere, and I get hooked on artists, and I have 2 or 3 pieces of their stuff. So I love having art around.
I know. I love buying other people's art too. It's like you're cheerleading them on too, and then your home is beautiful for it.
I do. I like that. I like that a lot. So are we going to see any more books or creative arts from you in the future? Is this, I'm sure somewhere along the path, you're going to find another outlet to share with us, I hope.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know what they will be yet. I am currently working on a mainstream health book. It's on endometriosis. So that's a book that I'm trying to wrap up. It's not spiritually based though, it's very health focused. But after that, I'm not quite sure what will be cropping up. We'll see. We'll see where it takes me.
That's right. Where is spirit? Spirit has an idea of where we're going. Yes. Whether we have an idea of where we're going or not, they definitely do. Mm-hmm. Well, Angela, if you ever get to Denver, I would love to meet you in person. Please know this is an open invitation to stop by, and I would love to be able to connect and just see how you're doing. So I want to thank you for taking the time today to share your story with us.
Well, thank you again for having me, and I will keep that in mind. Denver is awesome.
People always tell me that. I love Denver, Violet. And I go, well, just come out and hang with us. We have a store here, and if you're in town, we can set up a book signing where people can come in and meet you, because I saw on your website that you offer where people can get a signed book, and I would love a signed book. So you're going to have to send me the information on how I can get one. I'm one of those too. I collect signed books. I love that.
For right now, because everything is so virtual, I haven't been able to do in-person signings. So the way that I'm getting around that for now is anyone who wants a signed book, they can contact me through my website and let me know they want a signed book plate, give me their name and address, and I'll mail out a book plate that they can stick on the inside cover of the book.
I love that. Well,
and that's free.
Awesome. I look forward to receiving one of those. And I am hopeful, Angela, that we're getting to the end of the road of some of the COVID stuff, and we'll be out doing in-person things more often, and we'll get to see book authors and that. I'm looking forward to the International New Age Conference happening in Denver. So if you happen to come to that, I'm sure you're very aware, please let us know. I would love to meet you. So I'm looking forward. I think they're doing it in person this year.
Yep.
Right. I love the in-person stuff. I'm an extrovert, not an introvert. So I love connecting to people, but that's okay. Right. So I would love to meet you. Thanks again for sharing your beautiful story with us. And we hope to see you in Denver sometime. And those watching, thank you for taking the time to watch this. You can pick up Angela's book in our shop, because I am going to order it and have it here. So come on in. And if you want that nameplate autograph, please feel free to contact Angela, and you can pick up the book here and get that and have a signed copy. So that'll be a lot of fun. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I hope you have an awesome day.
Thank you for joining us. To find out more about Vialet and how she can help you discover your spiritual gifts, head over to discoveryourspiritualgifts.com and on YouTube at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. You can also send a personal message to Vialet through email, violet@discoveryourspiritualgifts.com. Until next time, remember, we are meant to have abundant and joyful lives. We hope to see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Come experience the difference at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.